Okay, Chad here again, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk today about the ENTJ and are they really extroverted? Okay, so first thing before you start analyzing a type is you have to understand the functions. I've talked about this in other videos, but if you understand the functions and you understand why they behave the way they do, and it has an extroverted preference, okay, I will tell you that an ENTJ, out of all the E types, probably appears the less extroverted as the rest. We typically think of extroverted as somebody who goes and meets and greets and shakes hands and warm and fuzzies people and all that. Whatever you think an extrovert does, okay. ENTJs, because they have such strong introverted intuition, it's their secondary function or their auxiliary function. Introverted intuition is very calm. It's very reserved. It's very deliberate. It's very, very, very set back and kind of, let's think this through, okay? So an ENTJ is less likely just to go do something stupid than to actually think it through, okay? More likely than the INTJ, though. The ENTJ is more likely to go do something stupid than an INTJ. If you ever catch an INTJ just planning something out and then goes and do something stupid, that'll be a rare moment because usually they think of all around it. An ENTJ has a higher chance. But the ENTJ is not going to appear as extroverted as, say, an ESTP or an ENFP because ENTJs think about everything that's going on around them. That introverted intuition is very powering. It's very overpowering in the sense that we don't just want to go shake hands and not think twice about it. Okay. We get very passionate. We get very out. I mean, everything we do is out here. It's like we have to be out there. We can't just sit in our corners and just sit. We want to be projecting something. We want to show the world that we can offer it something, and we have to manifest something in reality. But it doesn't mean that we are going to be so, hey, good to see you, unless we develop that kind of unless we don't develop that type of character, an ENTJ could be very reserved. They could be very, you might think they're an INTJ, okay? So it's not as extroverted as most of the other personality types because it's backed by such strong introverted intuition. On the other hand, an ESTJ, who's very similar in the ENTJ with dominant extroverted thinking, is going to appear more outgoing than an ENTJ. ESTJs can appear like ENTJs as well because of that dominant extroverted thinking, but I said ESTJ, I meant. If I said anything else, I'm sorry. ESTJs can appear like ENTJs, but they're going to be different in the way that they will appear more extroverted because they don't have the secondary introverted intuition. It's very, very reserved, okay? So it's almost like a dichotomy. You've got this extroverted thinking that's so out there, and then you've got this really strong introverted intuition, and it's just so... It's such a dichotomy. It makes ENTJs kind of hard to understand for people. And INTJs is the same way because it's the same problem. INTJs have a very dominant introverted intuition and then a secondary extroverted thinking. So it's very likely that someone can assume an INTJ is an ENTJ as well. Because of these two functions, it's hard to tell, is this person really an INTJ or an ENTJ? Okay, so you have to understand the order in which they do things. I'm a particular fan of chess. Chess draws out the introverted intuition in me and makes me think of possibilities. So I tend to get very stuck in introverted intuition when I'm playing chess. I will tell you, because I'm an ENTJ, it's very difficult to sit back and just observe the board for 40 minutes. Okay? I'm like, I gotta move something. I can't just, and again, that's a patience issue, which ENTJs struggle with. But I want to get out of my head. I want to manifest it. Okay, so an ENTJ is going to be a lot more obvious playing chess, like setting somebody up. It's going to be very obvious. An INTJ will plot 10 moves ahead and slowly try to stay as coy and subtle as possible, and then boom, checkmate, you're done. Okay, it just like that. So INTJs typically are better chess players because they're less obvious. And so Now, it also depends on your ability to see possibilities. I mean, you get an INTJ with a low IQ, then you got a problem because they won't be able to handle 5, 7, 8, 10, 15, 20 moves down the road. But it doesn't mean that ENTJs are necessarily at a huge disadvantage. It's just INTJs would have a natural preference to be better at chess because it really operates in their function more so than it does for an ENTJ. Excuse me real quick. So, I apologize. So that's a little bit of the difference between the two as well. So when you get into that extroverted mode, getting an ENTJ in there, it's hard to get them out of there. Once they start talking, we go. We don't stop. So it's just getting to notice that and getting us in that zone, getting us out of introverted intuition and throwing us into extroverted thinking will really bring out the extroverted side of an ENTJ. But if you catch an ENTJ in an introverted intuition mode, such as when they're in their reserved, calm state, then you are going to get, like Bill Gates, he's not typically going to be seen as the person who goes out and, Bill Gates is very much an ENTJ, but he's not the typical ENTJ that you would think is super extroverted. Okay, he's got a very strong introverted intuition. He's got a very strong introverted intuition, which makes him very reserved and methodical and planning and plotting and masterminding the next move of everything. Okay, so some may confuse him with an INTJ. So there's other ENTJs who are less like that, and they're more like the outgoing, explosive, so good to see you kind of guy. So they're both ENTJs though, and it's because the way they approach issues, problems, that temperament that's kind of set in stone, that hard wiring. So just like everybody was born with a different body, some people are born with small bones, some people are born with big bones, some people big heads, like some people look goofy like me. So there's some things you can't control, and that hard wiring you can't really change. Your temperament's going to be the same. But you can change things that are important to you. You can change values. You can change things like that. So you can become more extroverted regardless of what personality type you are if you want to. But typically you're not going to want to if you're a strong introverted type. So, or vice versa. Keeping me in my house all day drives me crazy. I got to go out and do things. I got to go make something happen. I got to go put together a sandcastle or something. But INTJs are totally fine sitting in their mind all day and plotting and planning and planning and planning and planning. After a while, I just want to do. I can't plan anymore. I can't possibly plan anymore. I'm done with it. Okay. So that's one thing you can notice. INTJs also tend to underdress. They do not care. Okay. ENTJs are more focused on appearance, external, that kind of thing. So ENTJs being the extroverted type understand that your dress is really important and blah, 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 because they're trying to move forward in life or whatever. INTJs say they're really thinking, if you cut all the crap out, INTJs are really thinking, who needs anybody? I don't need these people, so who cares? I don't really care to have anything to do with these people, so I'm going to wear my black t-shirt and my blue jeans and my tennis shoes and look like I'm going to go do a run or a hike, and I'm actually going to the office. So ENTJs are the people who tend to be a little more attention to detail on their appearance, their fashion, even their physical appearance. So ENTJs will try to develop a physique that is attractive to people. INTJs doesn't mean INTJs don't work out. It just means that ENTJs do it for a different reason. Now, ENTJs do struggle with extroverted sensation. So the SE makes them want to experience a little more things than an INTJ would. So ENTJs have a difficult time not eating. They tend to want to eat out and try different foods. And INTJs will eat the same thing every day and don't care. They'll eat the same. They don't mind. Food is not important to them. What it tastes like generally is important to them. So they're less likely to do that. So INTJs can be more, they remind me of kind of like, no offense to INTJs, but I like them. I actually get along with INTJs better than most types. But they remind me more of like a spider creating its web and setting up the perfect trap. when it comes to the way they approach issues or people. INTJs are less likely to just go up to you and say you're an idiot. Now they might. They just might have had it with you and they'll say that. But they're going to hit you in a way that hurts really, really bad. So in a sense, I see INTJs as they can be more ruthless than even an ENTJ. An ENTJ will tell you pretty much straight up, like, hey, you screwed up, and they won't think twice about it, and they'll move on. Or you're incompetent, here's how you do it, and they'll move on. Now, they may totally hurt someone's feelings, but they're not thinking about feelings when they make that judgment. Like, I'll make a decision. I'll say, I'm going to tell this person this. And that's as far as it goes. Like, I have to think twice before I do something stupid like that, because sometimes that's consequences. And that's character, not the temperament. Because naturally, I wouldn't think twice about what they feel. I just tell them straight up. But because of experience in life and that kind of thing, I know now, you just don't go up to somebody and say something rude. It's just not the way to do things. So, but it doesn't mean that I have to think twice about it before I do it, because I'll naturally go up and tell somebody, hey, you screwed up, but here's how we fix it. Now, the person may get real defensive. And then I'll ask, why are you getting defensive? I've just told you screwed up. This is not you. You're not attached to this object, or this particular report or this paper, whatever it is. So we tend to be very straightforward and direct. An INTJ can hurt a lot more. They just, they're like I can't even explain it. They just kind of plan everything out, how they're going to hit you, and they can really take you down. An ENTJ just one swift power punch, a brutal power punch, and that's it. And INTJ will not throw the first punch and kind of lead you into a little trap and then hit you with like a million of them. So INTJs can appear to be kinder than ENTJ at first because they won't say anything, but ultimately they're going to think something, or they sometimes won't say anything at all until they just had it. ENTJs will typically address the issue more. So does that mean they're extroverted? Not necessarily, okay? They operate in extroversion because that's their dominant function, but it doesn't mean they're extroverted in the sense of, hey, I'm an extroverted person, I love being around people, and I love talking, blah, 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 blah. The way I define introversion and extroversion is, I define it doesn't mean it's necessarily true, is where do you get your energy? You know, if you're introverted, you're going to get energy from being at home and being by yourself. If you're extroverted, you're going to get energy by being around people. And that is 100% true for me. If I am at home too long, I just get very tired. I just get worn out. I got to go talk to somebody. Hence why I'm doing these videos, because I'm at home right now and I have nobody to talk to today. So, because everybody's gone. So for me, it's like, I got to do these videos. I got to go project into reality. An INTJ would just not care, and they probably wouldn't even make videos because they don't like people in the first place. So that's ultimately the difference. And is an ENTJ extrovert or not? That's up to the character of that ENTJ and how they were raised. Last note is, just because an INTJ or an ENTJ may appear not to like people or hate people or whatever, doesn't mean they don't. They do hate people. It just means that they don't have the way of showing it because they operate in a different mode 99% of the time. They don't operate in the feeling mode, so they don't even consider emotions of others. That's general default temperament. As with experience, they start thinking about things like that. Emotional intelligence plays into the picture, how much experience this person has and what works and what doesn't. But ultimately, they don't think about the feelings of others typically. It doesn't mean they hate people. INTJs are less likely to use people in their master plans. ENTJs will want to use people as a resource or work with people more. So, anyway, it's up to you to decide if you think an ENTJ is an extroverted person or not. But again, in summary, an ENTJ can appear to be introverted. So, and an INTJ can appear to be extroverted. If they're operating in extroverted thinking, they'll look a little more extroverted. So, you just got to understand the orders and stop saying because the first letter, my acronym, is E, I'm an extroverted person. And I don't know if I'm an E anymore because I like to be at home. Okay. That doesn't mean anything. You got to understand the function and how it manifests. Okay. If you're a very springy, what I call a bubbly kind of person, you could still be an ENTJ. Not very likely, but you would have to have a less dominant introverted intuition to have more of that spontaneity, explosive, random behavior. Like an ENTJ is very systematic, so you wouldn't be operating very well. So it's very unlikely that an ENTJ would be a very bubbly person because of that. That introverted intuition is their secondary function, so generally it's going to be pretty strong. Me particularly, I have very strong introverted intuition, almost to the point of the strength of my extroverted thinking. So it's pretty magnified. So I'm going to be reserved even more so than most ENTJs. I'm just going to be that way. But people with a little bit less dominant introverted intuition are going to be less reserved. So an ENTJ is going to be a little more projection, a little more outgoing. It's, again, how strong those functions are. You're going to have some ENTJs who have really strong extroverted sensing, but it's not as strong as their introverted intuition, obviously, because it's their tertiary function. You're going to have some ENTJs that, have stronger introverted feelings. So really it's just understanding the strength of these functions and kind of what creates the different temperaments and how certain types can be different than other types. You get an INTJ with very strong extroverted thinking, you're going to get a little more extroverted of an INTJ. Doesn't mean he is an ENTJ. So anyway, don't want to make this any longer, so I hope that helped and cleared things up, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.